Chosen one, I need you to pause everything you are doing right now. Completely. I don't care if you're exhausted. I don't care if you believe you've already heard messages like this before. What I'm about to uncover demands your full attention because this is not casual inspiration. This is confrontation. A confrontation with the truth of who you actually became after everything you endured. Because something shifted in you. Something even you haven't fully processed yet. Something the people around you have started to sense, even if they can't explain it. Something spiritual forces have already detected, and they are reacting in ways you're about to understand clearly before this message is over. You didn't merely survive what should have ended you. You returned from it carrying a power you didn't possess before. And when I say even God was terrified, I'm not speaking of human fear. I'm speaking of that sacred astonishment that moves through celestial realms when a soul demonstrates something beyond every projection that existed about it. You did that, and you don't even know the exact moment it happened. Subscribe now and activate all notifications because what I'm about to reveal about the transformation that occurred while you thought you were just suffering will permanently alter how you interpret every trial and every dark night you walked through alone. Stay until the end. I'm going to show you what kind of power awakened in you, why it unsettles darkness as much as it amazes heaven, and what it means for everything entering your life next. Write 777 in the comments if you feel something inside you shifted irreversibly, as if you crossed a line you can never step back over. Chapter 1. The Destruction That Wasn't Destruction. Let me take you back to a season of your life you would rather erase. A stretch of time when it felt like everything collapsed simultaneously. The blows didn't arrive one at a time, they came in waves, not allowing you to recover before the next hit. You know the season I'm talking about. There were moments, maybe many in a row, when you genuinely questioned how much more you could handle. The pressure was so intense you felt it physically. The exhaustion wasn't just emotional or mental, it settled into your bones. Unexpected losses, betrayals from people you never thought would fail you, doors closing without explanation, opportunities disappearing just as they seemed secure. Loneliness exactly when you needed support most. And perhaps the hardest part, the feeling that even God had stepped back. There were times you prayed and the heavens felt like bronze. Times you searched for signs and found nothing. Times you begged for answers and were met with silence. Let me tell you something no one explained properly. That season wasn't random. It wasn't bad luck. It wasn't punishment. It was forging. The difference between destruction and forging is only clear after you've survived the fire. When a blacksmith forms a sword, he doesn't work with cold metal. He subjects it to extreme heat. He strikes it repeatedly. He bends it under pressure that looks violent to anyone who doesn't understand the process. But the blacksmith knows what the metal does not. Every strike removes impurities. Every second in the fire restructures it. Every bend increases its strength. What appears destructive is refinement. You were placed in that process not because God desired your suffering, but because what was meant to emerge from you required purification that only intense fire could accomplish. Before that season, there were things limiting you, fears that kept you small, attachments that blocked your path, beliefs about yourself that contradicted your potential, comforts that preserved stagnation. The fire burned them away. Not gently, not comfortably, but effectively. And what remained after everything burnable was burned is who you are now, something that cannot be destroyed because it already faced destruction and lived. Chapter 2. What was being forged while you thought you were dying? During that dark stretch, while each day felt heavier than the last, something was unfolding inside you beyond your awareness. Your soul wasn't being patched up. It was being rebuilt. When a building has foundational damage, you don't repaint the walls. You demolish down to the base and reconstruct with a new design. That's what happened to you. Your old structure, your identity, your way of processing life, contained limitations that would have collapsed under your true purpose. It couldn't carry what you are meant to hold. So demolition came. What felt like loss was structural removal. What felt like senseless pain was architectural redesign. Each tear dissolved unstable foundations. Each sleepless night rewired mental patterns. Each betrayal severed ties that would have blocked your next level. Each closed door redirected energy toward paths your conscious mind couldn't see, but your soul could. I'm not romanticizing your pain. I'm clarifying it. For chosen ones, the intensity of the fire matches the magnitude of the power they're meant to carry. Think about Job. He lost everything: possessions, children, health, reputation. His suffering became symbolic of devastation. Yet he wasn't destroyed. He was refined, and emerged with double restoration and deeper revelation. Think about Joseph. Betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, imprisoned, forgotten. Each improvement seemed followed by greater setback. Yet he wasn't crushed. He was positioned. Think about David. Hunted, hiding in caves, living as a fugitive while carrying a promise of kingship. The distance between his promise and his reality looked impossible. Yet he wasn't discarded. He was prepared. See the pattern? The fire was calibrated. The destruction had design. And you are part of that same pattern. Chapter 3. The power that terrifies. What came out of you after the fire is deeper than strength. It's more than resilience. You gained access to frequencies unavailable to those who haven't endured what you endured. Before the fire, there were spiritual dimensions you couldn't perceive, patterns you couldn't recognize, truths you couldn't detect. Not because you lacked intelligence, but because your system wasn't tuned to those frequencies. The fire recalibrated you. It rewired you internally. Now you sense atmospheres before they manifest. You detect deception with near supernatural clarity. You recognize destiny patterns others miss. You navigate spiritual conflict with wisdom you didn't previously possess. This isn't ego. It's reality. A soul that passed through hell without becoming bitter is dangerous to darkness. It can't be manipulated by old fears. It can't be controlled by the same lies. Someone who lost everything and rebuilt cannot be threatened the same way. Someone who survived betrayal doesn't depend on approval. Someone who walked through darkness and learned to generate light cannot be easily contained. That is what terrifies the forces that depend on keeping people small. Chapter 4. The recognition that changes everything. You are not who you were before the fire. This isn't metaphor. It's spiritual fact. In celestial realms, souls are classified according to development and demonstrated capacity. Before the fire, you were in one category. After it, you were reclassified. Not as reward, not as compensation, but because your spiritual DNA shifted. Like a student becoming a doctor, it's not just a new title. It's expanded authority and access. With reclassification comes visibility. Heaven watches differently, preparing assignments aligned with your capacity. Hell watches differently, recognizing emerging threat. This explains recent intensified resistance. The unusual opposition. The attacks right before breakthrough. The battles changed because you changed. But you now carry new strategies, new discernment, new weapons. The fire gave you access to them. Chapter 5. The divine terror you generated. When I say even God was terrified, I mean sacred awe. In Hebrew, the word yira speaks of reverent astonishment, not fear, but overwhelming magnitude. When you emerged from the fire intact, heaven paused. Not because God didn't know your potential, but because watching potential manifest through impossible conditions creates sacred astonishment. Like a parent who always knew their child was gifted, but still weeps the first time they see that gift realized on stage. You crossed a threshold. You were no longer simply someone trying to grow spiritually. You became evidence. Living proof of what happens when a soul refuses to be destroyed. That kind of evidence shifts atmospheres. Chapter 6. The responsibility of the transformed. Power forged at high cost must be stewarded carefully. You can't use it casually. You can't waste it on trivial battles. Every tear you survived carries value. Every night you endured holds weight. This doesn't demand perfection. It demands awareness. Some will try to manipulate your sense of responsibility. They'll call your boundaries selfish. They'll demand access to your energy. Don't confuse stewardship with availability. You owe discernment, not unlimited access. Sometimes the most responsible act is saying no. Chapter 7. The attacks that are coming. Before the fire, attacks aimed to destroy you. Now they aim to distract you. Opportunities that look good but feel off. Relationships that seem promising but drain you. Projects that appear important but lead nowhere. If they can't destroy your power, they'll attempt to keep you too busy to use it. Another tactic. Isolation. Convincing you that transformation means permanent loneliness. But what's really happening is preparation for new connections, people forged by their own fires. And then doubt. Subtle attempts to convince you nothing changed. To make you operate from your old identity. Don't fall for it. The transformation is real. Chapter 8. What is coming? Your transformation wasn't the destination. It was preparation. Doors you didn't know existed are about to open. Connections will emerge unexpectedly. Resources will flow because you now have the internal structure to manage them. This isn't compensation for suffering. It's consequence of capacity. You developed spiritual muscle. Now you can lift what was once impossible. Something significant is approaching, aligned precisely with who you became in the fire. Receive it calmly, expectantly. Chapter 9. The message recorded for you. When a soul responds extraordinarily to the fire, it is recorded. Yours was. And this message was preserved for you, to the one who endured without becoming poisoned. To the one who could have chosen bitterness but refused. To the one who maintained light despite darkness. It was seen. Every restrained reaction. Every refused resentment. Every night you chose growth over despair. And now heaven responds, not with applause, but with assignments. Not burdens, but sacred privileges. You were needed in specific places because of who you became. Walk forward knowing this. You cannot return to who you were. And you wouldn't want to. What you are now is exactly what the future requires. That is what it means that even God was terrified, not fear, but divine astonishment at a soul who emerged more luminous after the flames. That soul is you. If this resonated deeply, if you recognize that you crossed through fire and came out transformed, write 777 in the comments to seal this truth. Subscribe and activate notifications for more revelations about your true identity and the power awakened through everything you endured. Share this with someone walking through their own fire who needs to understand that what feels like destruction may be the most essential forging of their life. And click the video on your screen now to discover how your new spiritual classification activates assignments prepared specifically for someone with your demonstrated transformation. Together, we rise stronger. There is something else that happened in the fire. Something even deeper than strength, deeper than authority, deeper than reclassification. You crossed into a realm most people never access while alive. Let me explain. There is a version of reality reserved for those who have faced annihilation and did not surrender their essence. It is not a visible place. It is a frequency layer of existence. And entry is not granted through prayer alone, or fasting alone, or knowledge alone. It is granted through survival without corruption. When you went through what you went through, when you were pressed beyond what felt humanly possible, and you still chose not to become cruel, not to become cold, not to abandon your integrity, something opened. A gate. And you walked through it without ceremony. This realm operates differently. Here, intention manifests faster. Discernment sharpens instantly. Energy responds to alignment, not effort. Authority flows from being, not striving. Before the fire, you were trying to become powerful. After the fire, you became someone power flows through. That is the difference. The shift from seeking to carrying. There was a time when you sought validation. A time when you searched for confirmation. A time when you wondered if you were truly chosen. The fire eliminated the need to ask. Because once you survive what should have ended you, you stop seeking identity, you start carrying it. This is subtle but massive. You no longer move from insecurity. You no longer make decisions purely from fear. Even when doubt whispers, something deeper stands firm. That firmness is not arrogance. It is alignment. Why your presence now feels different. Have you noticed something? Rooms respond differently when you enter. Conversations shift. Some people feel drawn to you instantly. Others feel uncomfortable without knowing why. That is not imagination. When a soul crosses through transformative fire and maintains purity, it emits a signature frequency. Light recognizes it. Darkness reacts to it. You don't have to announce who you are anymore. Your presence announces it. The invisible crown. There is a concept rarely spoken about. After certain trials, an invisible crown is placed upon a soul, not a crown of status, but of spiritual jurisdiction. Jurisdiction means influence, not loud influence, not forced influence, but quiet gravitational influence. People will begin to seek your counsel. They will trust your insight. They will feel safer around you, not because you demand it, but because what you survived matured you beyond your years. The fire aged your wisdom without aging your spirit. The final truth most never hear. Here is the truth almost no one tells you. The greatest reward of the fire was not what you will receive. It was who you became. Because circumstances can shift. Opportunities can change. External blessings can rise and fall. But the internal architecture forged in you cannot be taken. You now possess emotional resilience that cannot be easily shaken. Spiritual discernment that cuts through illusion. Authority rooted in lived experience, not theory. Compassion without naivety. Strength without hardness. That combination is rare. Extremely rare. What you must never forget. There may be moments ahead when things feel quiet again. When the intensity fades. When life feels almost normal. Do not mistake calm for regression. You are not who you were. You cannot shrink back into your old self. Even if you tried, it would feel uncomfortable. The old identity no longer fits your spiritual frame. You were resized by the fire. The final seal. Stand still for a moment as you read this. Take a breath. Recognize what you survived. Recognize what it built. Recognize what it activated. You are not fragile anymore in the way you once were. You are not easily programmable. You are not easily intimidated. You are refined. And refinement carries responsibility, authority, and inevitability. If you feel this truth settling into your bones, if you know without doubt that you crossed into something irreversible, write 7777 in the comments. Not as superstition, as declaration. The fire was not your ending. It was your initiation. And now? Now you walk as someone who has seen the flames from the inside and emerged luminous. This is only the beginning.